to the back, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I am rocking a solo show today. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be breaking down a couple of articles. I'm going to be doing another lane analysis today. And we're going to just kind of talk a little bit more about the market but mainly like kind of handling a market shift, because it's easy to point in one direction or another and say the sky is falling and everything else, and, get a bunch of clicks on it, because, very few people actually know what to do in these situations. But also, you guys, I do got to bring this up. I try only to bring this up once a week, but today is Freight Coach newsletter day. We just drop it on Wednesdays. All right. It's going to be market information, fuel prices, all freight related content, because frankly, this is all I really care about, is building my companies up in this industry. So we do it once a week. I don't auto sign my contacts up for it because, frankly, I don't want to spam you guys. I want you guys to want the newsletter. So if you want to get in on it, I just need you to go to thefreightcoach.com. It'll auto prompt you to sign up at that point. And then from there, your email goes into, I don't know, I think we use MailChimp, and it just gets distributed once a week. No more than that. If you ever get spammed somehow from my my newsletter and you receive more than one a week, let me know, and I will have my team fix that, because to the best of my knowledge, it's just once a week, which it is only once a week. And I frankly don't even know who signed up for it. I don't pay attention to that stuff. I just pay attention to talking on this show. But let's get into a little flatbed lane analysis today. And again, this is This Week in Freight, powered by DAT, you guys. We do this 3 times a week: drive in, reefer, flatbed. This is a 100% viewer submitted segment. If you're out there and you're maybe in a new market, or maybe you've never seen a tight capacity market before and rising fuel prices and everything else, and you're like, how do I even go about this? That's what this is designed for, you guys. I've seen everything that we're seeing right now, like multiple times in my career. And we're just here to talk about the so what factor, right? Because things change. And we're going to talk about how do we find those consistencies. So this one is Charlotte, North Carolina to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I personally love shipping stuff into Oklahoma because there's a ton of freight that comes out of Oklahoma. So it's a great market to send freight into. But again, every time I'm looking at a lane, I always look at the miles first, because transit times matter, especially with pricing when it comes down to the weekend runs, right? So again, this is one of those ones. It's 1,000 miles. It's a solid one, right? But a lot of people like to hit that 1,500 mile plus mark on the weekend. So again, you could see a slight rise in rates around that time. But again, that's one of those situations where you kind of eat that cost when you're going in there and working with people pretty consistently. But, again, this lane shows a lot of stability, right? Like, yeah, there's a spike right now where it's up to, almost $3,400 on this. The 1 year mark is 28, and you can make that direct correlation into fuel prices. That's where I see a lot of this, because that spike goes right in line when fuel prices rose out there. But I would, again, and this is what I want a lot of us to pay attention to, because if you looked at this line graph down here, and you at this time, and you save this and screenshot this, remove the price from this. All right. I want you guys to pay attention to the trend line on when rates tend to spike and drop back down. And you can start reading these markets for what they are, because yes, there could potentially 1 year from now be a higher price point across there. But I pay attention to the trend line, because the trend line more often than not remains the same. Okay. Because peak seasonality happens on every lane, regardless if fuel prices are up, down, capacity's up or down. There's very few times where there's like drastic spikes that there isn't an anomaly or an event that you can point to and say, this happened during that time frame, i.e., anytime there's a major winter storm, major weather event, wildfire shutting down freeways, stuff like that. So it's like, we got to look at, when we're pricing freight on the long term with our customers, it's not as complex as a lot of people want to make it out to be. The free market's the free market, and eventually people will pay for that product to be shipped out, regardless of what the price be. Obviously, I'm not saying go in there and bid $1 billion or anything like that, but the trend line is what you need to pay attention to, because yeah, it could be at $3,400 throughout the entire year, and that's exponentially higher than some of those other things, but I guarantee the market performs the same. Now, what could happen is it could continue to rise out there, and if capacity continues to leave the market, that could have a pricing effect on it, right? Just like with diesel right now. And we're going to break this down in one of the articles here. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to pricing now that the Strait of Hormuz is back open here, at least tentatively for the next 15 days or so, what that can do out there. But, I bring this stuff up, you guys, because a lot of these lanes don't change as much as a lot of people want you to think. There's a lot more stability out there than you think in these freight markets. It just might cost a little bit more, because frankly, that is the free market. And it's our job to be able to read this, go to our customers and let them know. And, at times you need to be prepared to maybe see a dip in your volume out there, because there are going to be people right now. I don't know how they're going to be able to afford to do this, who are going to continue to bid super low. They're going to break even, lose money. But eventually the service failures start to creep in there. But this lane, I think the spike that you see right now, if you got, I would say that this lane is going to be pretty stable here, because again, I look at the outbound market as well. Oklahoma is a good outbound market for flatbeds. And it's going to probably perform the same if you follow this trend line. It just looks like the new baseline that we're out there is going to be sitting around that 3,300 mark. And to me, it looks like it's a direct correlation to fuel pricing out there. But that is This Week in Freight, you guys, powered by my friends over at DAT. They are the official data partner of the Freight Coach podcast. That lane was Charlotte, North Carolina to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And again, if you want your specific lane broken down on the show, email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com. I just need a shipper city, delivery city, and trailer type. You can be as general and generic as you want. I'm just here to try and help you guys read this out, because there's just so much information that gets thrown out there, you guys. And again, I'm never going to proclaim to know everything, because I don't. I know a little bit about this industry. I've moved a couple of truckloads. It's not as complex as people want to make it out to be. It's to me, it's fairly basic. And when I say that is I've been doing this for over 15 years and nothing's really changed, right? Like the fact of the matter is rates are going to rise and fall like any free market does. There's going to be pushback at times, and customers eventually will understand that, like, all right, they're going to pay more money. And then when they can move it for less, they're going to move it for less. And there's price factors that are out there where people's operating costs go up when fuel prices rise and everything else. But it's literally our job. And I think we try and overcomplicate things a lot more than we need to. And it's very easy to overcomplicate things when you're out there on social media, and hell, my opinion might be different from a lot of people's opinions out there. But at the end of the day, you got to really understand that we're going to be constantly faced with something. Okay. I think there's just a false sense of how the market is when it's been 4+ years of excess capacity and easy to cover freight. It really clouds people's judgment on how to effectively operate out there in the market. And I personally think it's not the only factor. I personally think fuel prices right now are the biggest driver to obviously the increased rates, but I think the decreased capacity that you're seeing, because I think it forced a lot of people to potentially shut their operations down or park their trucks or change their strategy. They might be staying local now. They used to go, 1,000 miles, 2,000 miles, stuff like that, but they can't afford it, right? Like maybe their fuel line of credit didn't get increased. So there's a lot of factors that are going on out there. And, I look at it as, it's always going to be an opportunity. It's going to be an opportunity for you to show up and just have open and honest conversations and dialogue with your customers. You need to rip the Band-Aid off. You need to have those conversations, and you need to let them know it's an opportunity to set yourself apart more than anything. I look at it as I hate when, I don't enjoy when things change and go wrong, and stuff like that. But like, I also look at it as there's very few opportunities that we have in a highly competitive market like freight. There's 20 some thousand brokers, there's trucking companies, there's a ton of providers that are out there. There's very few windows of opportunity to show why you are truly different, because when you're cold calling and you're prospecting people, we all sound the same. I don't care what anybody says. We all sound the same. We might not be saying the exact same thing, but we all sound the same right away. And after you get in the door with somebody and start moving freight with them, and you can really start to prove your worth, it's going to come from one of these situations when there is a market shift, when there is tightening capacity, when there is drivers going out of service, and like, you need to effectively communicate a lot of that with your customers, and just don't be afraid. And if you got to go in and raise your prices, and you are truly as good as you think you are in your head, because I'm not the only one who thinks they're the best freight broker in North America. When you do that and you're prepared to walk away, you need to, because in time, the freight always comes back. All right. At least it has in my career. I hope it does the same for you, but you need to get out there and, talk to your customers about everything and just stay in front of them, right? Like, you don't have to be the boy who cried wolf about things, but data doesn't lie, you guys. Like, everything out there is very well publicized. I put all the links to all the major articles that we break down in the show notes. You can use Chat GPT to summarize this shit for you as well. So again, use a lot of this stuff and go in there with data and have an open and honest conversation about how things are, and how things might change or might remain the same here for the foreseeable future. That's what they look for. That's why they hire transportation companies, because they're mainly manufacturers, right? They're not freight companies. That's why they work with freight companies. So use this as the opportunity that it is. All right, let's break down some articles here, you guys. And as always, the links to these articles are going to be uploaded into the show notes on iTunes and Spotify. First article, this is the biggest story out there. And if you've been following anything in regards to this, there was a pretty tense past couple of days here out there. This article is ttnews.com. And then Trump links Iran deal to free passage through Hormuz. If you saw any of the posts and stuff on X and Truth Social and everything, there was no mincing of words about what the intentions were going to be here, and what could have potentially happened. I'm never going to dance on anybody's grave. I just want to, keep people alive. Shocking concept out there. But, this in particular here, tensions in the Strait of Hormuz were escalated under the current administration's maximum pressure. And again, there is no denying, there was no mincing of words on what their intentions were going to be. And then with threats to the passage where 20% of the world's oil flows, global shipping lanes were bracing for impact. For U.S. trucking, this isn't just a news story. It's a direct threat to the price of diesel and what has already happened out there and what could happen out there. But, as we all saw, there was an agreed upon ceasefire for the next couple of weeks. The Strait of Hormuz is open. And I think I saw a couple of things last night where the price of oil already dropped and stuff like that. And, the stock, I haven't looked at stock prices this morning because I have a job, you guys. Like I'm trying to build a company here. So I didn't have all of that, but I wanted to talk about this because like the opening of the Strait of Hormuz was a massive, massive priority, and it was a very big deal when it shut down, when all of the bombing in Iran started out there. They essentially shut it down immediately, and then they were very limited passage through there. So from my standpoint, this opening back up, this is one of those things where again, I'm not going to always say fuel prices was the reason why everything flipped on its head and capacity tightened up. I'm not going to say it was the only thing that drove it, but I think it is a very big driver in this. So it's going to be interesting to see here the trickle down effect after the Strait of Hormuz is back open and free flowing again here, and what that could potentially do to fuel prices. And if that drops back down and rates drop back down as well, what is that going to do to capacity? Is that going to change people's capacity strategy if they did start running shorter miles because they couldn't afford to fuel up their truck for their normal cross country runs and stuff like that. So these are all data points I want to pay attention to, and I want you guys all to pay attention to. Again, fuel prices isn't the end all be all with why rates rose out there, but it is a massive, massive expense. And most businesses operate off of a line of credit, whether it's through their fuel company, whether it's through their bank. And it's just a way for you to free up your cash flow out there. And, it helps you bridge that gap between when you get paid from your receivables and when you have to pay out your payables and stuff like that. So there's a lot of people who utilize that. And, we've taught, we utilize the same carriers almost exclusively on the overwhelming majority of our freight. In all of them had said in one fashion or another, like we had to go out, we had to increase our lines of credit with our fuel providers, lines, all of this stuff because of the float, right? And that's the big thing that a lot of people overlook is when your expenses go, because like fuel went up like $2 a gallon nationwide. Like if you go to EIA, this is where we get it all for the newsletter. If you go to EIA.gov, over like the last 6 weeks, it's been up $2 a gallon, right? So on a typical 300-gallon tank, just easy math here, you guys, that's $600 extra every couple of days. And if you only have X amount of money that you can utilize with that, and all of your and this is, and everybody wants to think perfect world. Not everybody pays you in 30 days. Right? Not every, like if your days to pay start to increase and your receivables start to age, you get put in a tough financial spot, and then your fuel card gets shut off or your line of credit gets shut off until all of that stuff starts to come in. So again, fuel might not be the end all be all on why rates rose, but it is a very large factor for a lot of people who margins are tight. And if your operating capital is limited and your lines of credit are limited, it's going to naturally decrease capacity out there. So I personally think with everything that happened, I hope they can come to a long-term solution here in Iran. I really do. I hope they can keep this open and keep oil down. Oil just affects everything. There's that famous scene from Landman. If you haven't seen it, I mean, it might not be 100% accurate. I'm not, from the oil fields, but I know oil is in just about everything. And when that is up, that has been the constant of my life. I'm going to be 40 here in a couple of days, where that's been like the massive talking point out there about when your expenses rise and there's a direct correlation to oil. So to me, the Strait of Hormuz opening back up is great. The ceasefire in Iran is great. And hopefully they can come to a long-term conclusion. I'm not a geopolitical expert. I just don't want people to die. And I want us to come to I just want to build my company. All right. That's what I want. I want to build my company in the United States of America. But it's good to see that there's a ceasefire out there. It's going to be good for the industry because if fuel prices drop back down, it's going to be a lifeline out there into the trucking companies who are spending, when their operating expenses go up, 15, 20% in a short amount of time, and rates don't match that, and days to pay start to stretch out, things can get pretty dicey. So any positive, I'm going to try and look for that and put that out there. So you guys, that article was from the DOT, Transport Topics, and it's Trump links Iran deal to free passage through Hormuz. So that's good to see out there. Second article we're going to break down is also from TT News, and it's talking about the DOT budget blueprint lifts FMCSA funding to $946 million. Increased target aviation and safety grants in the White House budget. The Trump administration unveiled its budget proposal for the Department of Transportation and the FMCSA. It signals a massive shift from mandate enforcement, pay attention to that, to infrastructure efficiency. While budget cuts are significant, the focus is on streamlining the regulatory thicket to reduce costs for small businesses. And there is a shift in focus. Where was that? Under the proposal, the Motor Carrier Safety Operations Program would be funded at $398 million, while motor carrier safety grants would total $548 million. The Department of Transportation said the request would allow the FMCSA to continue targeting high-risk carriers and behaviors, reduce service barriers, and deploy modern tools to improve safety outcomes. The DOT explained the administration is focused on raising roadway safety standards through accountability, compliance, and enforcement. The budget blueprint also outlines funding levels for other DOT agencies, including $66.2 billion for the Federal Highway Administration to support what the administration described as its goal of accelerating project delivery and empowering state and local partners. The proposal includes $16.3 billion for the Federal Transit Administration, $2.8 billion for the railroad, and $1.3 billion for the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Let me see here. President Trump transmitted nearly $2.2 trillion fiscal 2027 requests to lawmakers during the congressional Easter recess. The non-binding proposal, anchored by a sizable increase in defense spending, arrived later than expected. It's just such an incomprehensible amount of money when you look at $2.2 trillion. Like, it's fucking insane. But I think that for me, it's, the shift of compliance auditing to infrastructure building. I think, it's easy to kind of get lost in translation on a lot of that stuff. I think, and people are probably, I don't think that they're going to stop enforcing a lot of what they did this last year. Again, I think they're going to continue to push the pressure down on it, but I think they've put them, they know, it's very well publicized. But, infrastructure building, if you've flown in the last 6 months, depending on where you've gone, outside of Kansas City, which has the newest and nicest airport I've been to in a long time, our infrastructure is a joke. So the fact that there is as much funding as there is going towards that, I'm a fan of that. And then again, from a freight perspective, if people are building shit, that's a good thing for the economy. It's a good thing for the flatbed market. It's a good thing for a lot of it's good for a lot of businesses out there, right? So it's as long as all of that money that is being allocated is actually being spent on that, and it's not going to other BS, I think it's good. We need to, right? We need to repair our infrastructure and build our infrastructure out and replace our infrastructure because it's aging. It's a joke. We shouldn't be in this situation that's out there. I just hope it all gets deployed in the manner that it is all laid out to. But let me see here. Sorry, my computer okay. And then now it's also, it's going to be interesting to see what comes down and if there was any hot button regulatory issues that are going to be now kind of sidestepped out there in the new 2026 budget, due to the cuts and everything else, which I'm a fan of. We need to reduce spending a lot, but it's going to be interesting to see where a lot of this comes in. But I like the emphasis on fixing our infrastructure. I thought that was going to happen a couple of years ago in the past administration. Let's just hope some changes actually happen out there. But that article was from ttnews.com. And it was the DOT budget blueprint lifts FMCSA funding to $946 million. And third and final article is from Freight Waves. And this is Freight Market Sees COVID Era Extremes Return. Freight Waves is reporting a flashback to 2020 to 2021 market behavior. Outbound tender rejections are spiking. The gap between contracts and spot rates is closing in a violent pace. Like that word. I have to get some clicks. We are seeing extremes return, extreme demand in the Southeast, extreme capacity shortages in the Midwest, and extreme rate volatility. And again, if this is out here, I'll change my opinion. When I look at tender rejections, and the rate being up there, I want to know if we're looking at it on say that the Charlotte to Tulsa load we broke down today, say there's 10 carriers in this waterfall. If all 10 carriers reject that tender, does that count as 10 tender rejections, or is that one tender rejection? I would just like to see that data, because again, I think it can be skewed in one direction or another. I'm not, blaming anybody or accusing anybody of anything. I would just like to see it, because it's does that count if it's rejected? And then if it goes in and people accept that rate, and say it goes out to spot market, it's accepted, and then they end up rejecting it, does that now count as a double rejection? I would just like to see the fine print behind a lot of that to see. I'm not saying that freight isn't tight out there or anything like that. I've just always wondered that when I see tender rejections at 10 million or whatever, or I just want to see, if one load is rejected 10 times, is that counted as one rejection or 10 rejections? If it's on one load, just be interesting to see that. And then going into this here, obviously, the pricing data set surged back in the back half of March, increasing 81.9 in the first 2 weeks of the month to 94 in the last 2 weeks. Capacity stepped down from 44.4 to 36 over the same time period. Small companies, less than 1,000 employees, returned a 92.7 reading for pricing, which is 8 points higher. Inventory levels, large firms. With the current leanness of inventories, firms will not have large stores of goods and components to draw on, which may necessitate some continued movement in freight. And the report cautioned that elevated energy prices and already high good prices could curb demand, leading to declines in freight shipments. And that's another thing too, that I'm glad they pointed this out in this article, because at what point, when fuel is up and the cost of transport is up, do people obviously they can't afford to buy shit, right? Because prices continue to increase. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind as we're going on out here. Rates are up, fuel is up and everything, but the downstream effect, i.e. the consumer, the prices go up in the store. When does that block start where they're like, hey, I can't buy that, right? I used to buy 5 items. Now I can only buy 2. And will that affect freight? And when that does, what is that going to do to rates and everything out there? So I think there's a lot of data points to pay attention to out here. There's a lot going on, and there's going to be a lot of information that's going to be thrown at everybody, myself included, here over the next couple of weeks. But I think no matter what, you guys, the fundamentals are always the most important component of this industry. What do I mean by that? Your ability to effectively communicate with your customers will forever be the number one most important thing you can do. Yeah, trucks showing up on time and delivering on time is very important, but that's the expectation, right? That's just like going into In-N-Out and ordering a burger. That's the literal expectation of why you went in there. But if there's a delay in your order, their ability to communicate is always going to be the most effective tool. So it's it could get very challenging for a lot of people here who've never seen anything like this before. And it could make you want to wave the right flag and quit and be like, I'm done. I can't do this. It was so much cooler when there was 75 trucks to one load. And I can't now do this when there's one load, 75 loads to one truck and stuff like that. It's a seismic mentality shift out there, you guys. So I hope you understand that this is just going to be it's just a season. It's all part of it. We've all seen it before. A lot of us have seen it before, and a lot of us have flourished in these market shifts, whether it's a easy market, tight market. There's an opportunity that's here with it. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. We got guests coming on Thursday and Friday. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back.